up, everybody?
And gentlemen.
Another beautiful Tuesday night.
Folks.
That's all green screen.
No, it ain't, dude. That's a real room. It's right behind you. What are you talking about?
It looks great.
It looks wonderful, huh? Folks, this is the Producer Lounge, episode 110. Welcome back.
Only happens once.
If you're new here, folks, this is our show, our broadcast about music production.
Welcome.
We're going to bullshit here about music production.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Come and join us.
Everybody live on TikTok. Feel free to hop on over to our Twitch, Always 400 Official. Ask us questions about production, DJing.
Yeah, hang out.
Dave's a marketing wizard. He'll teach you how to get 100,000 followers on Instagram in 2 weeks.
It's true.
Yeah, easy for him.
That is a fact, folks.
Yeah, I can do that shit.
Yeah.
So we have,
I text you a link.
Again, a very special guest, as we usually do.
Oh.
Folks, we have the Don himself this week, the Denver Don.
These sound effects. Can everybody else hear?
Yes.
Yeah, they can, yeah.
Nice.
We have Option 4, folks.
Oh, shit.
The Denver Don himself.
The Denver Don.
Holy shit, dude. What a monumentous day.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, man.
Day. Oh,
Yeah.
man. No, I'm pumped to be here.
Let's go, baby. Yeah.
Great to have
Thanks
you,
for
man.
having me all the way up here, guys.
Yeah, dude. I know. We're way up in the fucking frosty
I
north.
didn't mean it like that. Just thanks for having me. Over.
You did, and it's fine.
No, I didn't. I was surprised when it was like.
It's a good time.
I just didn't realize where it was. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's good. Everybody, every guest, every time. They're
Every
like,
single time, yep.
oh, shit.
They're like, oh, I shouldn't have said yes.
I'm going to be
before I
late.
knew.
I'm going to be late. My bad. It's like,
I'm gonna
it's
need you
fine.
guys to come down to my house next time and set all this up in my living room.
Yeah, we need a couple extra grand to make a little mobile and then just put it in the back of a box truck. Then yes.
Do it like
that'd be
Steve-O,
sick.
where it's just like
Right.
on his tour bus or
Right.
whatever. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, we just got to go on tour and then boom, it'll be on a tour bus.
Well, this is episode 110, so you guys are well on your way.
Damn right.
getting there,
dude.
we're getting there,
We're
right?
fucking,
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
really
We've been
cool.
doing this
Yeah,
for
man.
years.
That's really cool.
yeah, it's been a blast.
When did you guys start?
It was basically right
Year and 8 months, maybe.
2020?
Something like that. November
2020 December.
or December.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I
we
think
switched
December.
off doing lo-fi beats basically, and we're like, let's just do a podcast because we were always talking in the kitchen just like this, just talking about, oh, like I like my kicks a little more, compressed before I saturate or whatever, just talking
I'm doing
bullshit.
my sidechain like this these
Yeah, we're just
days.
bullshitting,
Oh, man.
and we're like, let's just do a podcast and talk about this because
Awesome.
one doesn't exist. And
True.
yeah, that was December of 2020, and then we did test episodes till April of 21, and it's been every week since then.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, congratulations, guys.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
Thank you, man.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Cool.
It's been fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
just slowly building, slowly like meeting new cool people around the scene. It's honestly, it's really cool. It's crazy how much you learn, and it's crazy like the perspective it gives you. Like we're the ones like hosting it, so it kind of gives you a perspective of like how do you communicate this idea to someone else, or like do you even understand this idea enough to explain like how this thing in music works or whatever thing in music like. It's
Yeah,
fun. It's just
teaching is
learning.
one of the best ways to learn how to do something.
Yeah.
And we years and years ago, I was doing a electronic music production, like a meetup group.
Oh,
We did it for like a few years.
shout out Demp.
Yeah, me and a few friends. And then
Subs up.
we did that for a few
Subs up.
years, and COVID hit, so we couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Oh,
then
that's
we're-
cool.
Yeah.
I'm
This is the evolution,
blown
essentially.
away. It's all very, very well put together. It's
Hey,
like
thank
a
you, man.
rocket ship. Although,
I know, right?
yeah, the green screen thing throwing me off. That isn't.
Yeah, that's all made in Blender. The exact same time the pandemic hit, I was just like, oh, 3D shit. I'm just going to fuck with this for a little bit.
Right.
And,
That's
sick.
yeah,
It,
it's been-
funny enough, doesn't look too far off of what the regular background that you're looking at right now
To be
looks
fair.
like.
right,
Like these beers
Bunch
are
of
backwards.
random gear and shit.
right.
I gotta
Speaking of
get
which,
my mic higher. Am I not talking?
You're good. You're good.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you
I gotta
can
get a
keep
little
it-
You're good.
closer.
We're gonna put a compressor on this bitch.
This
Okay.
can move. You can like adjust it if you want to sit back.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
you're good.
It's
dude.
it's weird to get used to. It's weird to get used to, especially like hearing
It is a little
yourself
weird.
also in real time.
Yeah, the next evolution of this is to have broadcast headsets. So there's just a microphone
Got
in
it.
front of your mouth at all times.
Right.
Because the
right.
whole
Right.
point of this is to look as close to sports.
Sports Center.
Yeah. sports center as possible.
Awesome.
And have multiple cameras and have this fucking like, oh, it'd be so nice.
Yeah.
But until
That'll
then,
be funny one day.
we're hanging out.
Someone in like what 3-5 years from now, find this and clip it for us when we got the like full
Right, the
setup
epic-
going.
You guys are all
Setup.
pro. Wow, let's go. Awesome. Well, cool. Let's get into it.
Let's
Yeah,
get
well-
into it, man. Yeah, what have you been working on lately? Have you been focusing on like production more? You've been focusing on like
You obviously
sets?
just put out an EP with Jess and Jay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
fucking sick.
Big ups.
Man, thanks. Yeah, I'm finally starting to work on music again. I took a
Hell
break for a
yes.
couple of years.
Yeah, fair.
4 years or 3 years or something
That's all
like
right.
that.
Word.
But yeah, it feels good to start like being in the studio again. I that's all. I mean, yeah, it feels very, very good again.
Hell
But
yeah.
Hell yeah,
it's
man.
still I'm always constantly fighting for the time because
Yep.
my schedule's a little too packed at the moment always. So
Mm.
I still fight for that time, but now it's like usually on weekends I'm able to start getting in the studio again.
There you go.
And that's just everything to me. So
You feel like a kid again. You're like, oh, it's all magical and fun.
well, the scariest thing, the hardest thing for me is like finding the love in it, you know,
Right.
when
Oh, really?
it's your job.
Oh yeah,
It can kind of sometimes you feel pressure, and like 2019 I definitely saw that. Like I had big records at the time and my record label was doing really well, and it was like I was kind of like my schedule would be I'd work till like 7 or 8 p.m. and then I had a studio that was not in my house. I rented a studio space, and then at like 7 p.m. I would leave the office and then I would go to the studio and I'd work till like 10. Then I'd have dinner, sometimes with a friend, like once a week. And then
Right.
at that point, I would go to the shows
Yeah.
from the studio. And then, but I was in the studio like
Grind mode, baby.
I was in the
Yeah.
studio like 3
Love
or
to hear
4
it.
nights a week, you know. And these days, it's been a lot different. It's been so busy on everything after everything came back.
Right. The reboot.
It literally was like there was no time ever. Like it was 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, forever. And
yeah.
for me personally, I never wanted to make, like in 2019, I was always chasing like a hit, right?
Yeah.
Because the business was kind of built in the sense where you write the right record, you can go on tour. And it still is to this day. Like
Sure.
you write the right record and put it out at the right time, and time and unforeseen occurrence, like, you know, talent meets timing,
Oh, yeah.
whatever you want to say. Well, the right record can put you on tour for 2 years. And it's kind of like that weird situation in America especially, but like it's kind of like that situation where you kind of have to play the record, and then the motto was kind of like you would build new records and make new records, and when you were on tour you would tease those and see if they worked or not, and,
Yeah.
and then the records that would hit, that would be the one that you would release the next time,
Right,
and
exactly.
you would get more videos and more content of the crowd reactions and stuff if it was the right record, and then you put it out and hopefully that continues your streak, because back in the day especially, it was just such a singles based industry. No one was really doing albums, and
Right.
now the pandemic hit and people could write, spend more time writing. I didn't know a lot of artists that wrote a lot during the pandemic. A lot of artists were, you know, pretty fucked up from the whole situation. There was
Yeah.
no money in it either, right? So
Right.
there's
Yeah,
no touring.
yeah.
Yeah, you're sad because you're
Right.
losing business and you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah, it's just not the right
You're having a
creative,
hard
creative
time
space. But some artists,
paying bills and shit.
yeah, well, some artists that were really smart took that time and they were like, no, this is perfect.
Yeah, I'm a grind.
Exactly.
I'm gonna make album after album and album, and that's why you have like, you know, Rufus Du Sol just come out the gate and just destroy the world and take over and elevate their profile and their fandom way. You know, you got Tale of Us doing the same thing. You
Right,
got,
exactly.
You know, there's certain artists that really took advantage of that time. Now, most artists that I knew are maybe on the smaller spectrum. It was like, why am I writing a dance record for somebody to like
Exactly.
maybe play on a live stream or something?
Yeah.
And the whole thing kind of crumbled. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful to, you know, I'm grateful to feel in a comfortable space with music again on a personal level, to where it's enjoyable for me to go back in the studio, because it wasn't for the longest time, because there was no like end game, there was no goal, there was no
Sure.
like, not like ladder decline, but there was no motivation for a long time for me personally. And so now to have that love again, where I can enjoy making music, and I'm not necessarily, I'm in the most like wonderful position I've ever been
Beautiful.
in musically before, because I'm not chasing like, oh, my career, or I don't have rent paid unless I write the record that every big artist in the world's going to want to play, and then it be in that kind of like machine. I'm in a very lucky position now where I can just write for the sake of writing.
Hell yes,
and that's really fun. So new music is coming out, to me, interesting music is coming out just in all genres from a lot of different artists.
Sure.
But for me personally, it's like a situation where I can have fun making music again, and I feel like I'm 16 again in the first studio. That
man, that's amazing to hear. Yeah.
Writing for the sake of writing, and I'm not worried about I need this to tour, right? So
right,
totally.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not using it as a mode of transportation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a bit of a philosophy based around this idea here. We're way more interested in just making some dope shit that we like, you know? So our shit ends up sounding nothing kind of like everything that's existing around us.
Which is good and bad.
But we're doing like things like this. We're working day jobs, you know. It's not about like how fast can I get to the top, make the most money. It's more just like, I like making music. Let me make as cool music. We're going to try and put on a really good show for sure. But like, we're not really bowing to any kind of like general trends or ideas of the way things go.
Well, that's a really good space to be in because, you know, the way the game worked before, you know, on like the business side of things, not necessarily like the production side of things, but on the business side of things, the game worked in a way where associations were so important, right? And that came from like, you know, websites and the way shows were marketed, where it was like, if you had a record on Hot Creations in 2015, you're touring the world, right? If you got the big record that everybody pumps on whatever association for whatever label you're going after, like in 2014, if you had the big Dirty Bird record, go off, you become Fisher later, right? And so, you know, in because of that situation, it like with the pandemic and with the streaming platforms kind of removing the record labels from, like, you have to click 5 links to find out what label a song is on. In on Spotify if it's a big record. And part of the reason they did that is because if you look at like the playlist, which is now the most important thing to be on when you're releasing your music, is how many playlists pick up the record, right? And generate the streams. They don't show you what label anything's on, right? So
you have to go and click,
unless the playlist is a label.
Correct. Right. But those are never going to have the same support that the big playlists do. Because
as Mint or whatever.
I mean,
Dubstep Dawn or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and those are all controlled by the major labels. So we've kind of gone back into a world where it's the Clear Channel days where it's gatekept by the majors. And so, you know, if you want to work with a major label, then you got to produce a record that a major label is worth investing in, right? And at the same time, hope that the major cares, right? And then you'll get all the support in the world. And that's how, like, you start seeing, like, it's very backwards when you see somebody be like, I just got 100 million streams on this song in a year. I'm the hottest record or hottest, you know, artist out there or whatever. And then that they think, or at least the public might think, that that's because they have like big social media and they dragged everybody to the platform. That is not the case. Your exterior links get limited when you're on Instagram or your social media. They don't want, like, Instagram does not want
you to leave Instagram,
link out and leave Instagram to go to heart a song on Spotify, right? Same way Facebook doesn't want you to link out to a YouTube channel, right? They shelter those posts and you have to pay to play. So it's, you know, a very good situation to be in nowadays where you're just writing, and as long as Spotify does pick up the record and you do get playlisting from independent playlists, and that's all random, right? If that is the case, I mean, you could pay to play too, but if that is the case, you don't necessarily have to send a label 400 demos and get turned away 400 times. You could just put your shit out there, and if it sticks, it sticks, and it's kind of like, you know, no rhyme or reason to it. But at least it's not as gatekept as it was from, you know, the 2010 to 2020 era, where you know, A&Rs had the full power of whether or not a record was successful. And so, you know, when you talk about like, hey, we're just making music to just make make music and put it out there, that like there's never been a more powerful time outside of the beginning of SoundCloud era. There's never been more a powerful time to be an independent artist and be able to release on your own schedule and do what you want with your own DSPs. And like have that ability to get your content out there. It's a catch-22. Like in underground culture, like there's still a tremendous amount of people. Like right now, I feel like it's more about the live streams and stuff that you play on, like the radio shows that you play on to gain fans and hype. Like you look at, I had lunch with Gerd Janzen yesterday or the day before or whatever day it was, and he's a fucking legend. First off, shout out Gerd, one of the most amazingly tasteful artists there is.
Let's go, shouts, yeah.
Sure. And he was kind of explaining, it's like, you know, I was calling it whore, which was very offensive. I guess it's her.
Yeah, her.
Yeah, well, there's a umlaut or something.
Yep, exactly.
And there's artists that are playing on that right now, and now you look at like, you know, the people are consuming, like the general population are consuming.
Yeah, I watch that shit all the time.
Off of these radio shows now, because it's going to be alternative
that's
to what they get
such
fed
a
on
sick
Spotify.
stream.
Yeah, the boys noise.
The like visual of it.
Yeah,
it just looks sick as fuck.
It looks like the Matrix.
It's so simple, but it's no different than what you got
right.
It's a very creepy, like looks like it's a horror film, like room that's where people die in, kind of thing. But it's very simple and it works. And so, you know, I guess long story short, when you're making records right now as an independent artist, it's easier now than it was 10 years ago to get your music out there. And there's a lot of independent artists. I could go down the line. There's a lot of independent artists right now. Look at like Barnacle Boy, like Ian Oliver. That kid used to come to all my parties back in the day, like 10 years ago. And now the kid is fucking touring the world. And he was just kept to his craft, kept pumping music out. More people followed him on Spotify. Spotify started finally picking up his music up and creating playlists in that genre, and now the dude's crushing it. And so, you know, it's like he didn't need a label. He didn't send 50,000 demos to somebody and got told no 50,000 times before he was able to kind of create his own path. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is it's actually a good time for independent artists as opposed to, you know, 10 years ago where everything was so gatekept. I mean,
right. So tight knit.
I was talking to Darren from Dirty Bird, and he was saying in like 2015, 2016, 17, somewhere in there, mid 2010s, whatever that is.
Teens.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He and Darren is the A&R for Dirty Bird.
Oh, big ups.
How many demos they would get a week?
Oh, I'm sure.
Because if you had the record on the label, it was the thing. And no label can sign 1,000 tracks a week.
No.
Like that's how they kill the label, right? So they were able to kind of pick and choose from like the top of the top, the creme de la creme, and that's how you have some of the biggest dance records in America.
Sure.
On that label, they were able to, you know, they were able to do their thing. So, you know, it's a good time to be independent and a good time to be able to just release straight to these platforms. And if they get picked up, your music's heard, whether or not you have, you know, there's streaming artists that have like 1 million monthly listeners and they have like less than 100 followers on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. They're just putting in work.
Right.
Putting in work.
And
like
they're making their money off the streams and their royalties off the streams, and they're paying bills off that shit too. So,
I know, right?
It's very interesting, and I think eventually one day there will be some sort of merger. There will be some sort of mitigation. Once anything becomes too powerful, something else takes it down. Right. Same thing with SoundCloud. Spotify was able to conquer SoundCloud by throwing millions and billions of dollars in lawsuits at SoundCloud till they finally caved. So, you know, there's like you know, I guess at
doggy
times,
dog world.
It's gnarly. I mean, I could go on and on about that shit.
Sure.
But the you know, that being said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
That's a terrible saying nowadays, but there's more than one way to be able
feel you,
to
though.
achieve your goals as a musician than just
I go down the back,
formula.
down the spine.
Jesus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can kind of hold
The
it
belly's kind of nice though.
Oh my God! Stop.
It gets touchy though, I think.
Stop.
Dude.
Everybody cancel except for me. Everybody know. I'll put that out there.
Yeah, man. And it's absolutely
What do you think he was
insane.
talking? He's talking about a zipper
Please
on
try
a
to
jacket.
cancel us. Good luck.
He's talking about a zipper on his jacket.
The best thing that could ever happen to us right now is us being canceled. Like
Yeah,
nobody
there would be a lot of
knows
press.
who we exist. You
Okay,
can
good amount.
cancel
All right,
that
you're
shit.
doing good. You're doing good.
Yeah, there you go.
It is fascinating though, because like we are in the age of like the independent artist revolution, you know. But like you're saying, yeah, there are these avenues for just any person to pop off, and that's beautiful. But of course, you know, as we know, with this comes every single artist in their basement trying to just push and flood the scene, you know.
Yeah, there's 160,000 records getting
released a day. Or
a day on
whatever,
Spotify.
Yeah.
I heard. I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's something like. At the start of the pandemic in 2020, there was something around like 100 million songs on Spotify. Maybe that's a little much or something like that. And in the past
Seems
3
about
years, it's doubled. There's like 200 million now. So just in 3 years,
How many of
everyone was
those are just
like,
meme tracks that it's just like a fart?
and see,
and
so
shit
that's
like
what's kind
that?
of interesting. Yeah, there's a bunch of people who have the ability to like push their stuff, and they have all these avenues now that they didn't previously have. But yeah,
I don't think that's
a lot
a
of it is still
detriment,
just going to be shit. There's
Right.
going
I
to
think
be a
that's
lot of
good.
like bad music, or you know, subjectively bad music.
Just because the ocean gets bigger doesn't mean the percentage of good shit gets smaller. It
Yeah,
kind of
there-
increases with it.
Yeah,
there's,
you know?
there's always opportunity when
Yeah, it's always
things
there.
hit like a mediocrity, right?
Right.
In the
Ooh.
game, it's not really about, you know, I've always described it to people like other artists and stuff I've worked with or spoke with. It's like there's noise, right?
Mhm.
And this is the noise. Say that's the 200 million AI tracks that are
Right, the
getting
noise
uploaded
for...
a week.
Sure.
To Spotify or whatever the
Yes.
fuck, right?
Go on.
And say that's the noise, and all you really, and then you got like the big spikes, the people that create their own wave and that are above the noise. So whatever that is, in whatever genre, whatever artist you look at, that's like that's the biggest artist in that genre. Those spikes in the noise, everybody kind of follows suit and joins that lane. So, for example, I don't want to say names, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if it's a big melodic techno act, right, that's really crushing it, then you have every other producer in the world trying to associate with them. And
It's like Walker and Royce coming on and doing their shit, and then people just being like, let's try and
That's
do
tech house.
that. Or, you know,
I mean,
whatever. Chris
basically-
Lake, Fisher,
yeah, I mean,
Right.
like people are glomming onto that hardcore.
yeah, and there's a lot of people who were like, okay, cool, if they can make music in that vein, you know, there's potential to gain fan base, right? And what happens in a situation like that, and it's great. It's like the more artists that succeed, the better. Any single, like, I learned this very quickly. I used to be very stuck up about music and very stuck up about
Really?
Yeah, genres especially.
Sure.
Like when I first started as a promoter, and first started like introducing like house music to Denver, for example, like or reintroducing it. It was one of those situations where I was so stalwart against like commercial dubstep or commercial house or commercial anything that was like mainstream, right?
Right.
And then, you know, after I started working with a lot of underground artists that were underground at the time, everywhere from, you know, I mean, fucking, dude, Disclosure, my first Disclosure show had 50 people in it.
Hilarious.
Damn.
And so then you see them 6 months later and they're
so
like
sick.
ready to sell out stadiums. You go, oh, wow. Do I
Yeah.
hate Disclosure now? Because I
Right.
love that music not even 6 months ago. And the
I
answer
mean,
is
how could you
abso-fucking-lutely,
hate
they're
Disclosure?
the best ever. And,
Right.
and they created
It's the
their-
optics of it.
They took over America and they
Right.
took over like they brought a sound that was honestly very inspired from like Todd Edwards, and they'll tell you the same thing.
Sure.
They brought a sound to the US that ended up changing the demographic in the game, just in general. And just because they got successful didn't mean I didn't like the music any less.
Yeah,
sure.
I saw a clip the other day about somebody who was playing White Noise. And I was like, man, I loved that jam. But like through the years of being an artist and a promoter, I've learned to kind of tailor the idea of disliking something because it became popular, right? Or because it became big. And that's,
Right.
so in my mind, it's like I don't care what artist tries to be the next Chris Lake. If they're making a living at it, I champion that.
Right,
because
for
it's
sure.
so difficult.
You got to
live it.
respect it.
So
You-
hard
yeah.
to pay your bills in music. It's just
Yeah.
the most impossible.
Sure.
Yeah, dude,
impossible-
to build a community that they genuinely support you and love your shit, and like that is so hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
That is so fucking hard to
Nationwide,
do.
worldwide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and on top of that, like even doing what they love.
Yeah.
you
and
know,
doing what they love. Yeah,
it's like, I mean, that's the dream, right? So when I talk about like the noise and you talk about these spikes and everything upstreams through that, right?
Sure.
So like
and then branches.
there's a Chris Lake. There's gonna be 1,000 like not as good Chris Lakes trying to make the same type of shit. Right?
Great value, Chris Lakes out there.
But then there's going to be a guy who doesn't. It's not quite Chris Lake. It's just right adjacent. But there's plenty of room right there adjacent.
Exactly.
And so he spikes.
Elevates
sure.
as well. So when you look at the noise, it's like you could look at all these big people and they're up here in these massive spikes, or you figure out how to go up here. You figure out how to go up just a little bit and create your own lane, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you see some of these artists out there that are, doing what they love. I think Barnacle Boy's a great example. You look at like Nicki Nair. You look at like
Dude, Nicki
some of
Nair.
these,
Gnarly.
look at some
So
of these
good.
artists out
So
there
good.
that are not following necessarily.
Yes.
There's nobody big in like Nicki's world,
No.
right?
Yeah.
He
right.
does what he does, and
Right.
he's amazing at it.
I'd say
and
he's the
such a-
big one.
right?
in his.
But think
but
about
that's
that
because
for a
it's his
second.
lane.
Here's the static. He's sticking up a little bit.
Right.
So it's like if he starts to blow up and he's already getting 100K a gig,
Yeah,
God
he's-
bless, hope he does.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be a bunch of other people that are going to be inspired by that and support that vein too. But the trick is this: you'll never be, if Nicki Nair blows up, you'll never be Nicki Nair.
No.
Yeah, right.
You'll never be.
It's
He's
his.
already there.
You're not
He's
going to
already
be
up
doing
there.
what
It's
he
his.
does best.
He's already
Yeah.
at the top. You'll
Yeah,
never
so you
be-
need to find that midpoint.
if you don't even need to find the midpoint, you just need to do you and hope that you build that midpoint, right? Because the worst thing you
True,
could ever do,
true.
literally, and I tell this people all the time, like the worst thing you could ever do is make a record, right? Because you want to be famous or you want to tour or you're trying to achieve something in the career, whatever that is, and it's not something you truly love.
Right.
Because then you're
Oh.
stuck making the
Yeah.
rinse and repeat
Right, exactly.
formula where you know what it sounds like, you know how to make your sound,
Yep.
you put the same thing out, you don't want to disappoint the fans you already have,
Yeah.
and then you're stuck in a circle where you're chasing something that you're not in love with. And that's why you see a lot of artists do this, and then I don't know, 5 years later, they're like, my heart's really in this, and this is
Right.
what I'm doing now. And usually they're upstreaming through somebody else's bullshit. But the same point, the same
He's
point,
not wrong.
the same thing applies where like, no matter what kind of music you want to make, the worst thing you could do is trap yourself into making that music if you don't love it.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up to AC outside. He was saying, I mean, he played us a whip, sounded sick, and you were telling him that he could probably send it to Fuckhouse and they would sign it, which is probably true. But he's also kind of producing like,
Whatever.
ghetto tech and this, and now he's asking me how to make a little Texas kick.
He's like
And
all
I was
into Gabber out of
I'm like,
nowhere.
you want to make hardcore? We'll make hardcore. I'm down.
Yeah.
But also like, you don't necessarily have to pick a lane, but be careful if you're just gonna like send a track willy nilly to somebody and they're gonna put it out.
Yeah.
If it's just kind of like you're kind of just meh on it, like I made it and it's good enough. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It can take
Like-
a while to find your fucking,
Which is fine.
your lane of like how you like to do things.
Yeah.
And the
Stay in the
idea,
basement.
like we're big concept people. Like Caleb and I's project is very, it's very goofy. It's very troll,
Yeah, it's very
and
We'll just say
tailored down.
Internet.
Right. Yeah, you could call it internet.
yeah.
But you guys have
Um,
spent like the last, like 5, basically since I've known you is
Yeah,
kind of when you
the
just
last
started
like
it.
5 years we've
You've
been concepting.
you're
Party
developing
Boy-
the
or
idea,
Party Beat.
concepts, all this stuff,
Right.
and you've never jumped the gun on anything and like pitched it to someone or
No,
you've done
just
little
in the
bits
last
of,
in the
like-
last year we've been like
actually trying to figure
trying to
something
meet
out.
you and like
Yeah, for the first time you're like maybe
Give
we're
people
ready.
some
Maybe-
tracks.
Maybe this
Yeah,
is
we're
like
just-
an idea.
yeah, and we're not trying to like push anything. We're just being like, hey, now we can like now we feel confident with what the brand is. I don't like using that word, but that kind of is. It's a concept project. That's what it is.
Well, listen, branding
So,
is important too.
For sure. For sure.
like,
I hate using the word, but it's accurate.
no. It's not even
Accurate.
it's not a dirty word.
Accurate.
Like
No.
the thing is, you have to put like there is. I don't know any artists that are able to succeed that just do one thing good.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Nowadays, it's like you have to be a little bit of everything. But the branding
Tell
isn't
me about it.
necessarily something where it's like, okay, cool, I have a logo and now I got merch and this is what I look like and I'm gonna
This is what I look like.
I'm gonna promote benders or something or whatever the brand is. Or like vendor's the wrong word, but like you know what I'm saying. Like
So accurate.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. I know
This is-
exactly what you're talking
it's
about.
not
I've
like
got a marshmallow for a head.
yeah, or whatever it is, whatever the that, like yeah. Sometimes kind of gimmicks can be kind of cheesy, right?
Right.
But and
They work.
you can your brand is you. It's not the fact that
True.
you have a brand already.
Sure.
Like right now, your guys' brands are the awesome producers that are the humble podcasters. That's your brand.
Yeah.
Now, as you evolve and as you change or what you want to emulate or become, that will obviously grow. But everybody has a brand. Your brand is who you are,
Dude,
right?
yeah.
Now, if it's like I create something that's an alter ego and this is the project and this is what it is, it's not really who you are, but it's whatever you created. So it's an
Right.
extension of you, right?
True.
So
It's an
like-
aspect of you.
yeah, branding is literally just packaging something so people can pay attention and consume it. It's branding
Yeah.
is not the idea of here's a gimmick. Branding is here is something that you take all of the things that inspire you, all the things that make your project, all the things that make your music, and you put it in a box.
Yeah.
That's what branding is. And that box is something that's easier to consume than taking the fan base and being like, you got to follow me here, 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 here. Right? In
Sure.
all these different
Sure.
avenues. No, it's putting it all in one space, one place that's easy to consume.
Let's
And
fucking go. I
so
love it. You're
some
give me
people,
hyped.
Some people can be like, oh, they can't hear me, I think.
I turned it up a little bit.
Sorry.
Can't hear the guy in the shades.
Here.
My bad. Is that better?
That is a little bit better, but he'll
That's
just
better.
turn up your mic and
Okay.
then you can talk. freely.
Apologies.
No, you're fine.
No, you're
dude.
good, man. You're good.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is like the idea of like branding is not, I mean, there are certain things in the aspects of branding that can be cheesy, but branding
Sure.
is not cheesy. Branding is who you are and what you put out there,
Yeah.
and you consolidate into something for a fan to be able to consume.
Yeah.
And
I feel
that's
like
something that everybody has to have, no matter what.
You have
It's who
to.
you are, whether or not you want to make it a brand or not. If
yeah,
you-
it's just
if-
naturally.
If you decide to be the person like Fortet that's not the branding person, his brand is the fact that he's not
He's
the branding
not
person.
branding, yeah,
and
exactly.
he's sitting there posting photos about here's my studio and it's just a laptop and he's in Bogota. Like that's the type of, no matter how you look
Yeah.
at your brand is whatever you put forward and what you consolidate for fans to consume. So
Yeah.
there's not like the situation where you've got, Fortet's not wearing a motorcycle jacket and being
Right, no.
whatever.
No,
A Fortet. I love his vibe.
his brand is beautiful.
In those fucking shows, he's just like,
yeah, I like.
just like
it's my
pumped
turn.
and like chilling.
yeah.
One of the
love
best, one of the best dudes ever. But that's also
I
a guy.
bet.
That's also a guy that stayed in his lane forever and never changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just stay true.
He sampled everything he possibly could from old world
Right.
records, and he would go down to South America and he would shop in vinyl stores and find disco records and find like Fortet's record collection. People don't know this, but it's like half the size of a football field.
I would believe you.
I'm not kidding. Like that's not a joke.
Just needs a full warehouse to
That's not a joke.
All right, Jay Leno
That's-
with your fucking cars.
That's
so
like,
sick.
Legitimately, like he's one of the.
so badass.
I mean,
Biggest collectors.
Imagine
well-
how much money he's throwing into that. Oh
the
my
guy's
God.
the guy's a genius, and anything he touches
Yeah.
is gold. And,
Yeah,
but
he's a
it's a
cool
lot of
dude.
it is because of his music knowledge, and that music knowledge is like irreplaceable and hard to find.
Yeah,
So,
fuck
and
yeah.
and he's developed that knowledge just because like he's one of those dudes who just loves music. Like he was probably that like 13-year-old kid who like his new favorite band would come out and he'd like lose his mind and he'd dive deeper and find
Right,
out
just likes
the
tunes.
bands who inspired those bands. Yeah, he just loves music in like all aspects or maybe all aspects. you know?
and tip top, man. Like, unbelievable. I mean, the fact that him having his moment right now is the coolest thing ever.
I know. I fucking love it.
Yeah,
About time.
it's so well
Big ups
deserved.
to Skrillex for being like, hey,
Huge
why doesn't
ups.
anybody know who the fuck this is?
Yeah,
You know?
No, it was never that way. No. Don't get it twisted. Fortet's always had a very strong. fan
Whoa,
base.
sure.
But Skrillex definitely like.
It's sick for
Hold up.
Skrillex
Let's
to
just-
fucking
Let's call a spade
do
a
that,
spade.
though.
Let's call a spade a spade. Skrillex needed Fortet and Fred again just as much as Fred again
Sure.
and Fortet
Sure.
are happy to associate with Skrillex. That association is 100% symbiotic. Like
Yeah.
if you're
I'm sure.
That's fair.
if you're
Oh,
I'm
gonna
sure.
be if you're gonna be the biggest dubstep artist of all time that created commercial dubstep, you're going to want to go back and have any tie you can to proper underground respected roots, right? And Fortet's always lived in that lane. So, you know, I mean, it's a beautiful thing that's happening, and those guys are awesome, but like they work really, really well together.
They
It's
work
funny.
so well together.
And
It's insane.
Then you got Fred again, who's like what's the generation after
Gen
us?
Z.
Gen Z. Like,
oh, is he Gen Z?
Yeah.
Let's go.
he connects with people on a level that, you know, Fortet wasn't necessarily connecting with, and then you have Skrillex being one of the biggest artists of all time, like tie it all together. It's like it's a great,
It's
amazing.
It's such
Awesome.
a nice
Really,
little
really cool.
Sammy.
and they look like they're having a lot of fun.
Oh,
So,
dude.
I remember
cool.
seeing some sort of clip. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but when they were making Rumble, I remember someone saying like Skrillex was trying to do, you know, the Skrillex stuff and make it like loud and in your face and aggressive and like add a bunch of things and, you know, do his side of things. And he would always bring it to Fortet and Fred again and just be like, okay, how do we make this better and better? And they would always be like, just strip it back. Let's do less. Let's make it more minimal, make it more intentional, make it more whatever. And it's like them together just like working in harmony with each other like made a really cool song and a bunch of other cool songs, and now they're like playing really cool sets, and I don't know, it's so inspiring. Just
Right,
I
for
love what those guys are doing. It's the coolest thing right now to me.
I think they're on a level where, you know, they're just only going to go even bigger, which is crazy to think. But honestly,
I know, right?
if you look at if you want to look at branding, you look at Fred again, you're like, holy shit, the smartest branding of all time. I mean, that guy is, what people don't know about Fred again is he's the most connected producer of ever.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Right?
Just put out a record with Brian Eno.
But
yeah.
literally,
I mean,
Yeah, he's...
he produced Ed Sheeran.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, the
Yeah.
guy's he's a super producer, and so you know,
Jesus.
there's super producers, and it's cool. Most super producers, like I know several, like that make records for the biggest artists in the world, and they
Right.
never really do like a solo project. They're happy doing what they can.
Right.
They're
I love
happy
it.
doing what they do.
For
They
sure.
get paid really, really well, right? But you know, I mean, I've been in the studio with super producers. I've been lucky enough to have that experience and see how that shit works, and it is absolutely a different level than any of us are used to.
Sure, I believe you.
Whatsoever. But for him to be
That's
able to
amazing.
create his solo project out the gate, his brand is genius. It's so simple. It's something that's relatable. It's not, hey, I mean, he has access to the greatest videographers and photographers in the world, right?
Right.
But that's not what he's putting out there. He's putting out there like, I got my little earbuds that I connect to my laptop, and I'm making music on the train, and oh weird, John Legend just showed up. Like he's like
Right.
on a level that is he's so smart and so genius at social media that and an amazing musician to boot, right?
Right,
Amazing
right, that
musician to
helps.
boot because he's a super producer. Like he's in a top 1% of producers in the world.
I
Like,
believe it.
You don't get to produce Ed Sheeran unless you know your shit.
Yeah, right.
come on.
Right.
They've been doing that for 10 years. So it's really exciting to see him like take a personal like solo career, because not enough like super producers ever do that.
Yeah,
ever.
true.
But they could smoke anybody in the studio left and right all day long. I mean, there's very few.
Right.
people
Yeah,
that-
but they're probably just a little shy. you
Right.
know?
half the time, yeah, but the other half the time they're so busy working on really amazing
Oh,
stuff.
right.
They take
Yeah,
so
they
much
just don't
pride
give
in
a
just
fuck.
being. I mean, they also get to make the money without having to tour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you get to make the
Yeah.
money. You get to make the money and create a great living for
And
yourself.
then go home and eat dinner with your
And
wife.
you have a normal dinner with
Right
your
back.
wife, and you don't have fans bothering you, and
Right.
there's not like, you know,
Nobody knows who you are at all.
right. And
You can go
and
to
so
Sprouts.
There's a
vibing.
Yeah, there's a beautiful aspect to that side of things too when it comes to those guys. But the Fred Again thing is just the funnest project in the world to watch, and it's
It
cool
is
to
pretty fun
support
to watch and
really,
involve.
really, really awesome. Like to see somebody that's like, I've been doing all this on the back end for a long time. Now I'm going to do my solo project, and see the amount of support that he's gotten from other big artists as well. It's spectacular
Right.
to watch, and be that good at social media. The guy's an anomaly. The guy is literally one of like, that guy might be the GOAT after we're all said and done. The guy is like on a level that I've never seen in a long time. So
Yeah, and big ups to him because I cannot do that. I am such not a social media person at all.
Same.
Like it's hard to just even look at Instagram.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
just like,
I mean,
I know I have to check my messages. I should do things on it.
yeah, it's tough to care about something that feels contrived, right?
Right. That's kind of, that's like the main thing. It's like, it feels fake to even like post anything.
Well, the answer to that is just don't post stuff that's fake.
Well,
Like,
sure. And
you
that's
can really enjoy, like, I mean, like I look at Instagram and I look at like my social media and whatever, and I actually have no problem. I enjoy it because it's not, I'm not sitting there trying to portray myself as anything different than I am.
sure.
And so I look at it more like, hey, after it's all said and done, I want these memories. I want to be able to
Sure.
look at stuff
Sure.
and be like, oh, I remember that time. I remember that time.
That's
'Cause
an interesting way to look
Yeah,
at
I
it.
haven't even thought
actually.
about that.
I don't
way.
really look at it like, what do I got to put out there? I
It's
look
a
at it like-
storage space for future.
Exactly. It ends up being like in 20 years, am I going to go back and look at my shit and be like, oh, I remember those times, and those were great nights, or those were great mornings, or
Right.
those are great things, or those were negative and those were dark, and I remember
Right.
those times, So
Now we're kind of talking about a classic MySpace fucking
Essentially,
wall,
that's essentially-
like the good old days.
the good old days. Oh my goodness, MySpace.
Dude, let's bring it back, if only. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I haven't thought about it that way. That kind of relieves a little bit of pressure on it. But in terms of, for an artist, like I have my own personal Instagram.
Right.
But for like Party B's Instagram, it's like we're trying to worry about the branding of it or whatever. And we basically got down to the point where both of our idea and care of Instagram is basically like we don't care, so we just post the blurriest pictures possible. So like, just here's a picture of like a bottle of tequila and weed that we just smoked, and just like bullshit off shit like that, because
Well, it can be daunting, but that's your own.
but it's also like that's kind of the steez we want. We kind of want people to just be like,
Yeah.
nice,
But it's also also kind of like, in a way, you can't be. I think it's a negative thing. I think part of the, like, anybody that looks at it that way is almost kind of like, it's tough to compare yourself to other things on social media. So you go the opposite way, like, fuck you, I don't care, because I don't want to be, I'm not sitting there trying to be something else that you're, and that's where the darkness is you sit there and compare yourself against like what other,
nice. Here, I'll take
And
care of
an
this.
extra for anyone else?
my man. So I think that's like if you're able to compartmentalize that, I think that social media is a good thing. I think the more you connect with people is a good thing. Any avenue, whether that's Spotify, whatever platform it is that you can connect to people and people feel like they can connect to you in an organic way, I think is a very helpful thing. Like, I've never bought a follower in my life. I've never done no campaigns on anything. I'm very
Big ups. Big ups.
Cheers to that.
I've kept all of my social media and everything very organic. People know if I put it out there, they know what's going on. I used to be a lot more active on shit.
You're very present that way.
Yeah, I used to be a lot more active on shit, and then I had to kind of calm down. Like I like in like 2018, 2019, it started getting weird. Like I stopped. I used to post on like Facebook like 15 times a day.
Oh, you were
Dallas
going hard.
told me about this.
Yeah, I used to.
Interesting.
I would just spout stupid shit on whatever was funny, and it was always hot takes on whatever was going on, and it was like this thing.
It's a pretty good time though.
And it was like I had no like I used to I would post once an hour almost. Like anything that came up, I would be like, "Oh, this is hilarious," or "Oh," and I let people
get it out.
know who I was. But then it started getting creepy, where I had people like randomly coming up to me in the street and being like, "Oh, I heard you don't like those eggs at so and so or wherever."
Yeah, you're like,
And I was
whoa.
like,
I was hammered, dude. What?
I really got triggered. I got triggered one time, and then when I got with Live Nation too, especially, like it was like I was part of a corporation at that point.
Yeah.
And so it was like I don't want to say something that could potentially get, I got to bland everything down a little bit because I don't want to, jeopardize anything that I need. Or not anything I need to jeopardize anything on like the business side of things, because the followers started getting so big that it was just like,
I gotta calm down a little bit.
I was like, I could say the wrong thing.
I've been
and then,
talking some serious shit on here.
I never talked. I always looked at the funny thing about that is like my social media started growing tremendously, but I figured out the lines in the matrix to that shit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And the where I figured it out was I would look at social media and I would see like negative posts where people were talking shit or people were doing something negative, hating on an artist or hating on something. or hating on something in the scene, being like,
Yeah.
oh well, these new DJs don't know how to beat match, or
Yeah,
you know,
the sync
whatever.
button is for losers.
Yeah, the sound here is not as good as the sound there, and then, you know, whatever the fuck, like all this stupid shit.
Sure.
And you would see those negative posts get a tremendous amount of reaction.
Of course.
But what I realized was if I was always positive, my post would stand out in a feed of 150 negative posts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I never said
Organically.
anything negative. I never. All I did
Look at this
was
one light in the darkness
I
over
would
here.
literally go out of my way to be like, you know, try to have a positive take on everything. And so when I kind of had to tone down, like, and then I got hacked and I lost like 40,000 followers or some shit.
Oh shit, that's
like
brutal,
China,
man.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Universe.
They were like,
Yeah.
they had hacked my shit, and I didn't have the two-step authentication. I didn't know anything about whatever, and then all of a sudden they charged like $100,000 on my account for ads, and they were selling like jeans in Thailand or something.
Oh.
Like Option4,
Gotta get them jeans.
I get a post and be like,
my
Option4 is live, and they're like, look at these jean shorts, and it's all in like, you know, and then the Himalayas selling whatever.
Oh,
Like,
dude, I'm so
it was-
sorry.
yeah,
That's
The fact that they
fucking-
think that's going to work is
Well,
just bizarre.
They don't care because I'm technically the one on the hook for like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
brutal. But
Yeah.
so, you know, when that happened, I was able to come back with new social media during the pandemic, and that it happened right after the pandemic. And then I was just like, you know what? The people that friend request me or the people that follow me at that point, they're gonna know me. They're gonna be my friends, and I just kind of toned down everything. But the trick that I saw, like when it came to going viral or having like interaction, I saw a world of negativity, and I would just go out of my way to figure out like the positive things to talk about, and it would stand out like a sore thumb. And then all of a sudden, when I'd announce a show, it would get a tremendous amount more interaction than anybody else's interaction because
Interesting.
my post would follow. Like, I mean, there'd be people that had me on like follow first kind of thing. So anytime I post, they would get like a notification kind
Sure.
of shit.
Because they
So-
always look at it because it's a nice thing to look
Yeah,
at.
because it was never me just like talking shit about something in the scene or
Right,
whatever
right.
was going
Yeah,
on, and
totally.
all the salty, you know, the like little bits of
Babies.
drama. Yeah, the little bits of drama that happen in a small town in a small
Oh, dude, the
scene,
shade is obnoxious.
it's 10 times more present than it ever should be for how, like, you know, people are just that's a
Jesus.
natural reaction kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that social media is actually a very positive thing if you treat it in a way where you look at it in a sense where, I mean, for me, I look at it in a sense where I want those memories and I want to have that time capsule, but also it allows me to connect with people in like an organic way if you treat it that way, not in the sense of let me like, and that's part of the reason I don't have a Finsta. I don't have like a, oh, this is for my friends. I don't have, it's me because I am.
It's just you. You are the
Right.
brand.
I am.
You are the
I'm
whole
just-
identity.
I'm me, and if they
Yeah.
follow Option4, or they follow Brennan Brierly, or they follow, I don't actually pump a lot of attention into the brands.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever post on the 100% all the time, or I don't post on like, you know, these brands.
Yeah,
That
you just do it from your own.
I just do everything for me, and if they fuck with it, they fuck with it. If people like it, they like it. But it's at least at the end of the day, I'm not sitting there trying to fabricate a post.
Right.
Well,
That's
Sure.
actually what we do.
Yeah, that's basically what
we
it
have
is.
our individual
There you go.
things.
You have
We
it.
have our things for our projects. The projects get we're playing a show at this time.
Right, they get the
and then
downstream.
we all repost those things if that's happening. And then otherwise you're just gonna see our own posts, which is
Right. And
pretty
minimal.
But that's
As
also
it goes.
that's also a pretty stress-less thing. That's
Right.
a
Yeah.
very stressful
Yeah.
situation. It becomes natural. When
Chill.
it becomes contrived is where you feel like it's a job or you feel like it's fake. When you feel like you have to post something because
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
right.
man.
that's when it becomes like a burden and it's not natural.
Yeah, I will
So
never give into that. I
Totally.
absolutely hate that
you
feeling.
say that
Yeah.
until your podcast blows up one day and then all of a sudden you're like,
I
oh,
know,
we need more
right?
content. Yeah,
Dude,
so-
I'm-
Say that,
my
but-
words broke. 'cause
Yeah.
I've been there.
We've been grinding on this shit for a long time. We're not
But
I don't know.
I'm excited.
We'll
I am
see.
curious.
We'll see.
It gives me
yeah, we'll
such a
see.
hard on.
I
not to
would
give in.
like to have the challenge.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Me fucking too.
You
dude.
guys have to understand this. This
Love
is, what you guys are doing doesn't matter about the viewership or the followers.
No,
or-
it's about this right here.
but it's also, I mean, yes, but it's also so important in a different level. Like one thing the electronic music industry fucked up the biggest, right, was they didn't give the proper attention The artists didn't give the proper attention. The industry didn't give enough proper attention to the media that followed electronic music. So for in the golden years of 2006 to 2012, like the blog years,
the blog days,
those mattered.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, blogs didn't matter, and everybody couldn't figure out why. And the reason is we never invested as an industry. No one ever thought the electronic music was going to get to where it is right now. But now the industry's so big, the money is big, and all these artists are making a lot of money, and all the festivals and the brands and the the big corporations, they're making money, but they didn't keep the media alive. All these people, like the people that cared about talking about music or talking about production or talking about electronic music, those guys all were just like, you know what, I don't have no money left, I'm just going to quit and just do my day job. And so we abandoned as an industry the infrastructure that particularly nowadays is so needed and doesn't have that monetization factor, right? Like you look at these writers, that's why it's so important. I think what you guys are doing is so important because you look at these like writers, for example, all over the country, they're going to write this, like a journalist that's going to be a music journalist.
Right.
That dude is whoever that person is making
Nothing.
very limited amount of money
Yes.
for their articles they contribute. They spend their time, they do their research, they care about something, and they, at the end of the day, are not at the yacht. The artist out there is the whatever. Like and because the journalist side of things and the documentation side of things of electronic music was never funded correctly, was never supported correctly, and eventually got abandoned, right? There's less and less and less people that do it for the sake of they love it. At a certain point, they got to pay your bills too. So my point is that like what you guys are doing is more important than you know. You guys can sell your shit short all day long about how you don't have the followers or you guys are driving for 2
And we
years
will.
doing this.
And we will.
My point is that like what you're doing is more important than you're giving credit for, because the more people that care about music and talk about music and document music, the more important that, I mean, the more that happens and the more that hopefully the industry catches up and all of a sudden you guys could be full time and you're making your living off doing the awesomest podcast on underground music there is.
Clip it.
Right?
Sheesh.
Honestly, man, that's an amazing perspective.
The more that happens, right, the more it's going to inspire other people to do it too.
Right, exactly.
The same way no one was giving a shit about house music in 2010 because house was so whack, and the only people that were making house music in America were touring in Europe, and that was the only place they could play.
Yeah.
Nowadays, look at that shit. Everybody in America wants to be like a house music artist or a techno artist or whatever. And because they see the value in being like, oh shit, I can make a living too. Right? And so I guess my point is that, like, you know, you guys, you can sell yourself short, but what you're doing is massively important.
Well,
and the more people that do it, the
we
better.
Appreciate that, man.
Because the situation that, you know, media is in, especially in underground electronic music, it's no longer underground anymore.
Right.
Like you see these dork asses. Well, you see a lot of these artists. Like nowadays, they're like, I don't want to. Okay, how do I put
No,
it?
be real. Call them out.
We're
Call them out.
all
Let's go.
dorks. We're all
It's
dorks.
with love. You're not just digging in. It's with love.
I'm a fan of dorks.
No, I gotta move on.
look
I
at
am
this
a-
guy.
fair.
Dude,
That's
I'm a
fine.
huge dork. I do not care.
My point is that, like, you know, now a lot of these, like, maybe people. I gotta stop. So my point is that, like, what you guys are doing is very important, and teaching people how to produce. I feel like we haven't talked about enough production stuff. We got to get into that side of things, because all I've been doing is just talking about, like,
Dude, it's been
game.
fucking sick though. I've been loving every moment of it. Yeah.
I'm not talking about like stuff for producers.
But this is producers still need to know all this info.
we need this shit, you know?
Like that's
we
the
need
thing.
this.
Is on that note, a lot of producers, like, they go to YouTube and stuff like that to learn how to, like, produce. But then they also go to YouTube to like how do I go
Try
play in
and
a
figure
club
out,
or how do I become an artist at all? Like that's
Dude.
what we talk about on this podcast too.
That's
is,
other part of it,
you know. And like we had Creon, who's just starting to get into production, but he talked the whole time about like building a playlist and how to set the vibe as like a DJ,
Yeah.
which if you want to make electronic music, you're probably going to want to play it out.
Yeah.
And 80% of the time
It's
you're
an
going to play it on
important thing to
CDJs. So it's good to know
Yeah.
how to
yeah.
do that kind of thing.
And at this point in like my personal journey, I'm so interested in trying to find like the little interviews with artists I like and all these little like things where they're not necessarily talking about like music production. I just want to hear about like their view on things and their perspective and their stories, and like I feel like that is just as important as the music production side, because that's what like inspires you as an artist, as a person, that gives you like perspective of like why they make the music they do. And like for really big artists I've seen, it's hard to find videos where people get intimate like that. So literally just listening to you talk, I've just been like,
been great.
Oh, let's go.
Okay, well, I feel bad. Yeah, I was like, we could talk about the production side.
But definitely we could get into production too. Yeah,
I mean, I got a quick
always
tip.
down with that.
I got a quick tip right now, right out of the gate.
Oh, what are we going into, Caleb? What do we got?
Clip your master. No, I'm kidding. But also, but clip your master. Multiband clip your master, folks. Multiband.
Ayo.
Multiband.
If you're gonna do it,
Yeah, multiband. No, the tip. I think I've brought it up before, but if you want to spice up your hi-hats or your top loops or whatever you've got running in the top end of hi-hat universe in your track, whether you're making trap or house or dubstep or whatever. In Ableton, a quick, easy one is erosion. You just put that bad boy on there, put it in wide, and next thing you know, you got some white noise that tickles as your hi-hats tickle. You can
anything
use
that gives you a little bit of noise based on whatever the input signal is.
Correct.
So you could even use like a compressor with sidechain on a noise channel.
Yep. You can use Cable Guy's Shaper Box 3, anything like that, just to add a little bit of more texture to your hi-hats. Plus, then you can automate a bunch of things or modulate a bunch of things, so it can like kind of. I hear a lot of techno guys do this a lot, where you hear the hi-hat, it's just kind of like riding along, and then it kind of slowly opens up, and you hear more.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to tight.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just noise that they're just adding and just modulating the length of how long it decays, and then they just
Yeah,
cut
the
it
thing
back
with
again.
hi-hats is like it's if you're just using one hi-hat sample, it's got a very particular little like nodes
sonic
up in
profile.
the highs.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fucking annoying to hear that just every single time, the whole time.
Right.
It's going to start getting annoying to your ears. And if you listen to it a lot while you're making the tune, your ears will start to tune that shit out. And then you don't even know that it exists. But if you add a layer of noise, especially like a wide noise is really nice.
Yep.
Because then you can kind of like, you spread out the high-end layering and it goes along with the thing that you need it to go along with, and it it's just a little love.
And if you have the ability to make it random, where the noise is different every cycle, then the hi-hats are going to continuously like be slightly different. You know, as organic as you can get.
That just gave me an idea. You could make you could set up a drum rack with a bunch of just one shots of noise at whatever length that are kind of different tones.
Yep.
And set up some sort of random on it, so every time your hi-hat triggers, you get like a little random noise thing. I've never thought about that.
I've done that before, just with the
Have you done
exact
that?
same. Yeah, I just taken the exact same hi-hat, pitched it just cents up and down until I had like 6, and then I duplicated those and changed the formant on them just slightly, and then threw those all in the drum rack and just kind of like let it randomize. But then I printed it out and grabbed the best part.
Dude, yeah.
But
every hi-hat has its own little individual personality. Little sprinkle, little
fucking
stereo
right. You got to pay attention to every hi-hat.
Dork.
No, it's not. Like that's the funny thing is like what you guys are talking about. Like that's a very natural thing, because naturally when drummers are drumming, they're never going to hit the same thing over and over again. So you're just trying to emulate that, right?
Yeah.
You're not trying to keep, I mean, if it becomes too robotic, if it's just copy and paste, right? And there's no extra flavor to anything, what you're trying to emulate is the same drummer sitting there in the cut. They're never going to hit everything at the exact same time, and that's very pleasing to the ears because it's not too repetitive. There was this record back in like 98, 99.
Speak to me.
There was this producer in the UK who I thought he was from Detroit. His name was Steve Mack. And if you ever go look up his discography, he's fucking fire. Guys making just rippers.
Steve Mack,
he had this one record, and it sounded like a nail gun was going off for 9 minutes. It was just, it was absolutely, literally just 16th notes the entire record, right? Whew. And it was relentless. But the only things that ever changed, was the velocity in which the nail gun was hitting. So it kept its own groove to it.
Right, exactly. It had
all that did was change, and the nail gun was basically the only thing that ended up. I call it a nail gun, whatever the fucking knock it was,
Sure,
whatever it was.
yeah.
Metallic rim shot it was. It literally sounded like a nail gun.
Yeah.
But as far as techno, man, this shit was like
hell yeah,
absolutely relentless and beat you over the head beat you over the head for 9 minutes. But the subtle changes in that was what was made the record listenable, because if it just stayed the same the entire time, you go, I'm ready for suicide. So what you guys are talking about should be done in everything.
Yeah, I've said it so many times on the podcast.
It's not just hi-hats, it's not just kicks, it's not it's everything.
It is everything.
Dude, and you can overproduce something too, where you don't want to automate too many things that are changing too much, because
subtlety.
You don't. I mean, really, it's all give and take. You want to bring everything wide and then bring everything in the sense where, at least
contrast.
Some of my favorite records are, you can't wait for that part to repeat again, right? You look at Tame Impala. I think they're a great example of that. Is some of the records are very repetitive, but they go off in these soirees of where you think you're hearing that melody again, but the melody is gone. You're still singing that melody in your head. Then all of a sudden it finally comes back in together, and then it's back, and it's like, you get that.
Oh, he's like a master
release
at that, right?
Yeah, but that's essentially what it is. Like in a record, if you're going to be trying to be technical, right? That the tension and release is the most important part of a song.
Dude, that's everything, right?
Which is why you have so many artists that, or so much, honestly, maybe some of the most dumbed down versions of that would be I guess in traditional maybe EDM or bass music, where you've got these big build-ups, and then
I was gonna say rhythm, the most obvious,
you finally get that
exploited
moment.
version.
And what that is really is the exploitation of it is really delivering what that release actually is, and that's what the whole record is.
It's kind of beautiful in a way. At its core, they're just
100%.
They found the thing.
But that's also why those DJs, they play minute-long songs.
Yeah,
because they can't. You can't do that for 7 minutes, the same drop or the same song, right? So it's got to change very quickly onto the next thing, which works really well for a lot of the some of these bass artists specifically. They'll play 60 songs in
literally
nothing.
Dubstep goes crazy
because those kids, that's kind of what they've been trained to expect, right?
Yeah,
which is totally different from the genre of music that some of the older heads, or some of the older music that is it's all full circle. There are people that will finally love the beauty and the repetition, and love the beauty and the subtle changes. You look at artists like David August or Stimming, for example. I think they're masters at that, right? And everything is so subtle, but when you finally get it, you're in the pocket, and you finally receive that in the song, and that's there's an art to that too. But that's
ecstasy right there.
Very much so. A German that's what the Germans did the best. The Germans invented that, essentially.
Yeah.
That slow cook subtlety to where the song delivers. Oh, by far.
Cool.
Yeah. I'll put that on. I'll put that on anything.
Engineers.
Yeah.
Those guys. Sehr gut.
They're very, very, very pro at what they do, but I think that they're probably the kings of that delivery method when it comes to records, just in general.
That's sick to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a thing that I've said many times on this podcast, but it's when from a producing perspective, along the lines of this conversation, if you're recording a band and you want to make a sick record for a band, a lot of the time your job is, as the engineer, you're trying to get the cleanest, most on the grid take from each musician that goes with the groove together. You're working to try and pull things together and make it less noisy and more clean. In electronic music, it's sterile out of the gate. So the whole time you're just trying to fuck it up. You're just
100%.
trying to change shit and push it around and try and get yourself something.
Make it fuzzy and fucking
it's
the opposite way of producing. It's crazy.
But, nowadays there's a lot of very general techniques, and I mean everybody kind of does it anyway. So it's like a
General
very-
techniques.
general techniques that are used, I think, in electronic music to accomplish that, which
Yeah,
is essentially
sure.
really ironic because it's like electronic producers are sitting there trying to make music like a band would make.
Yeah.
And make it sound, even though it's electronic, trying to make it sound like a band
Right.
is playing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the band is just playing it naturally, trying to get as tight
As
as they
I know,
can.
it's
Yes,
the
they
weirdest fucking
can.
thing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So good.
But
It's
I
so
grew up
good.
playing drums. I was just trying to be like, can I hit every single hi-hat note exactly
On the
on the
metronome.
grid?
That
Yeah.
still doesn't matter though, because in the end, like none of it matters if you don't have the record. Like the record is king.
Right. The
So
song
a good
itself.
song is a good song.
It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
thing that will ever
In the
make
end,
the only thing that will
it doesn't even matter.
yeah, the only thing that will really, you could be the best. I mean, I know I've been, you know, fortunate enough to be in the studio with some amazing producers and work with
Sure.
some amazing, talented,
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
like people like way beyond anything I should ever associate with. Be in the studios with some of these people, and they couldn't write a hit if they tried. They couldn't write a record that would connect if they tried. But they are so good at making music. And part of that's a disease where they're making music for other people so much that they can't find that personal attachment of what they really love. The other part of that is they're so smart at producing that sometimes the beauty
Right.
is the simplicity of just raw energy being transferred out there.
They can't
right?
see the forest for the
Definitely
trees.
don't have any friends like that.
Well, the truth is though, like the truth really is though. I mean, like you don't have to be the best producer to make the best record.
Sure.
and that is the anomaly. That's the level
Very
playing
true.
field of everything.
Right.
You
Very
don't
true.
have to be the best producer to make a song that will connect with more people than some of these people that spend their whole lives being engineers. Like it's almost like two separate side of things. You've got engineers and that are like mathematicians, accountants. They're genius,
Right.
right? And then you've got the person that can paint and they paint a little funky, but it comes from the soul and it looks a certain way and it connects with more
Right.
people than
Yeah.
something that is on the almost like left right brain side of the left right brain spectrums.
Oh,
So
dude, it's
In-
constantly just like finding balance with all of this stuff, you know?
Yeah. Striking a chord.
Mixing is just you're mixing everything. You're mixing emotion. You're mixing life. You're mixing loud and quiet.
Dude, everything's
bright,
in the mix.
dark. Everything
Oh my
is just
God.
mixing.
In the mix.
well, the other side of
Find
that
the
shit though
balance.
is though you're not going to be able to ever write a record that's going to matter. I don't think ever, unless it comes from a place that you're honest with yourself and you're
100%.
able to open yourself up to expressing what you're trying to express. Like
Oh,
90
dude.
and I think the proof of that, and I think you guys can all agree as you guys make music, your favorite thing that probably happens is the accident that happens that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
The
Always.
thing that you come across
100%.
that adds
400%.
I used to when I moved here I started teaching people how to produce, right? Because we
Let's
needed
go.
more producers. And we also needed more DJs, so I started teaching people how to DJs. I would give my CDJs to people because I would be like,
Oh, yeah.
you have a show in 4 weeks, and I'm
Practice.
booking you.
Learn this shit.
And
Practice.
these CDJs are staying at your house, and that's how you're going to
Yeah,
play in 4
yeah.
weeks. So practice
Exactly.
for 4 weeks and get your shit together, you know.
Right.
And you know the funny thing about that is like people could perform a DJ set, but they're never really going to be DJs. Like you
Yeah.
talk about people that sit there and
Yeah,
like
it's different.
I mean, fucking
Very different.
I mean, well, a lot of it is just inexperience too. Like dorks. I mean, no, sorry. Shit. I think a very
No, dorks is the right word.
okay.
It's pretty good when you can get Dave to laugh like
It's
that.
fine. It's fine. Just
I'm
go
about-
with it.
I'm about
Go
to
with
offend
it.
a bunch of
No.
people.
A bunch of dorks
They're
is
going
who
to
you're gonna
offend
offend.
themselves.
Okay, so-
You're not meaning it.
So I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, as a DJ, you know, if you sit there and you program a set and you practice and you're just like, all right, cool, here's an hour of music that's perfectly blended, and you spend all this time preparing it, you're not really DJing. You're performing a
Right,
DJ set,
right.
which
Right.
is the same thing as if you just recorded an hour-long mix of
Like you're a
mixes.
band.
Right. And the thing about that is like the people that kind of like, and in the very beginning when I was teaching people how to do, that's kind of, I knew that that's what they were trying to do. They were just like, here's my 45-minute set or my hour and a half set.
Right.
And I programmed I spent 17 million hours figuring out what songs work together because there was no like key matching, nothing back like that. You had to do by ear back then, and so the problem with that is the art of DJing. And this is where the lost art. This is where you hear old heads talk about lost art of DJing as opposed to actually DJing.
Sure,
right. Anybody can blend, especially nowadays. Everything beat matches for yourself anyway, right? Back then, you didn't have that. You just had to do it by ear, right?
Yeah.
But the art of DJing is not playing records that go well against each other and performing a set.
True.
The art of DJing is paying attention to the crowd and seeing what works for them. It is an actual unselfish act, as opposed to I'm playing something that everybody's going to love, or people are going to love me for how great this sound or how great this set is.
Right.
And so with like pre-planned sets, or people get like playlists of like pre-planned everything. Like when I'm working with like other artists, like sometimes I'll work with producers that are big producers and they're going to go out and start DJing because they've made the big hit records because they're master producers, and then they got to perform their DJ sets. Sometimes I'll work with them, right?
Right.
And I'm like, all right, number one is this. People are going to want to hear the records that you made. So there's that side of things. But the art of DJing is actually reading the crowd and giving them what they need at the right time. And you're never going to be able to do that if that shit's pre-planned. If you got your hour and a half long set, or your hour set, or your 2 hour set, and you've already had the 70 records and they're perfectly blended and everything is perfectly transitioned, you know your cue points to everything, you might as well have just recorded that set and then played it and just hit play once and then just dance around and touch knobs. The actual art, and this is where the dark side is, if you're stuck, and if you're stuck, and you better pray that your set was perfectly curtailed to whatever you think the crowd was going to be that night.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest like, okay, cool, the X's and O's are wait till you go play in front of 10,000 people. Wait till you go play in front of 10,000 people and you pray that you think that you've curated the perfect hour-long set for 10,000 people and 9,000 people are bummed out.
Right.
It'll go real quick in your head, but I can't just go off of what I've planned. I need to be able to give those other people a good experience that night. And so when it comes to the art of DJing is when you have a room full of people, right? When you have a room full of people, do your best to make sure they have a good time. Not be over the head and not beat them over the head with something that's super obscure they don't know, not something what you can get away with that once you've got them in your hand. But if you don't know how to work a crowd and you don't know how to understand what those people what will be palatable to those people, then you're fucking up as an artist, you're fucking up as a DJ. Because if they walk away not having a good time that night, then you've ruined the opportunity that you had. And so the best DJs, they never plan anything. They know what they have in their crates. They have thousands of records, but they play, I do a very Neanderthalic way. Normally, like if I'm playing a real set and I'm like, I need to cook, I'll play 5 different types of songs, 6 different types of songs in the first 20, 30 minutes and see where I'm at.
And feel it out a little.
The one that works, I go, okay, cool. Here's a building block. Now we're telling a story. I go from here to the next record, to the next record, to the next record. And if I ever need to get to that one record that I really need to play, you're planning 4 or 5 songs in advance, right? But if you ever need to pivot, you need that ability. And so what you've seen nowadays, especially with the influx of DJs and the influx of artists, they think that I need to get my playlists all scheduled and this is need to be the set I need to prepare for that night. And, you better hope it works. You better hope. Right. You better, and if it did work, sweet. But the actual art of DJing is very different than that. It's not I'm delivering this product to people. It's how do I make those people in front of me have a good time that night? And that's where the art is lost. And so you hear these old heads talk about some of the masters at that. It's funny. I saw an artist this weekend. I played this festival this weekend.
Big ups.
And
big ups.
Thanks,
Big
guys.
Ups Festival.
Thanks, guys. I played this festival this weekend, and this artist I was really looking forward to seeing play. I was really looking forward because I respect the music and I know the guy and he's just a fucking legend. I go to see his set, and I was just like, wow, this dude dumbed it down like a motherfucker, and I am so disappointed personally in his set. But then I looked at the crowd, and they were singing all the words, and they knew they were having a blast. And I was just like, well, that's what a real DJ does.
Yeah, right.
You don't need, if I'm opening up for some, if I, and one of the greatest examples of this was, or for me personally, I was playing with Rufus Du Sol. Like I got a phone call I got a phone call out of the blue, and Rufus Du Sol was like, yo, can't remember what artist was, but they didn't get their visa. They're like, you want to go on tour? And so I'm going on tour with Rufus. And I go play a bunch of dates. I don't know. It was like half a dozen dates or 5 dates or whatever it was. And I'm playing big arenas, right? And at the time, I got my own brand going. I got my own record labels. I got my own shit going. And I go play that first show. I think it was in Dallas too. It was Dallas, and this will always scar me. I was playing in Dallas from like 6,000-7,000 people or something. Right. And normally at like really big shows, what I do, like the best way that I've kind of, because I'm not going to have big production. None of my shows are I'm never going to spend the money on like a lighting package where everything's timed and it's pre-produced and it's not, it's not going to be that way. Right. Yeah. If I'm going to go up there, I'm going to try and warm up the crowd and make sure they're happy for Rufus. Right.
Cool.
So I'll always play under it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that they have a good night. But at the time I was kind of hot. And at the time I was selling out a lot of shows. And at the time I was like thinking in my mind that, I mean, if we're gonna be straight up, I thought I was cooler than I was, and I went in there to play a bunch of hot records. I played some left field shit. I played some really stuff that was definitely forward thinking for the crowd, especially in Dallas. Right, Dallas is not the headiest.
I was
cities,
just in Dallas.
Right? Not the
I can confirm.
Not the headiest of cities.
Not
no
the
offense.
headiest.
There's a lot of people that really care. Like I think
Shout out Dallas.
It'll Do does a great job. There's a lot of people that care about the music in Dallas, but it's at the show I was playing and for the artist I was supporting, I did not do a good job. And 20-30 minutes in, I was lost. I was going to play these records. I thought Dallas was I got these hit records at the time. I got all this thing going on. I think that and in reality, I did a really piss poor job of setting them up correctly to just smash.
You were. Do you think you're almost being like selfish? You're trying to make it
a little bit, but also I did what I condemn beginning DJs for doing.
Dude, yeah, that would be.
I came out with, I was like, I'm gonna play these like 6 records because they're the bangers, and Dallas is gonna fuck with it because I'm hot right now. And what I did was I made the first 30 minutes of 6,000 people's lives miserable for that set. Like I had to completely.
I mean, that's probably a stretch.
No.
Miserable.
No, I was like, I mean, they weren't like grabbing cans of tomatoes, but like it was like I knew
a can of tomatoes would hurt.
I knew as an artist, I knew as a DJ that I had overstepped and I'd fucked up. And that was like the biggest humbling experience for me. And then for the rest of the tour, I started honing it in. And by the end of my end of the tour with them, like I was in the pocket and everybody was having a good time. The rest of the cities all kind of worked out. And it was like, okay, cool. I got what I'm doing. But I had to check my ego out the door, and that's the very first thing I tell any like aspiring DJ or beginning DJ. Yeah. The first thing you need to do is realize the crowd's more important than you. And so depending on that crowd, you need to feel them out and then make sure you have the ability to pivot so that you're playing the right records at the right time. And that's ultimately the art of DJing. And a lot of these other DJs, they don't do that. They sit there and like, here's my playlist. This is my set. I prepared it for 3 weeks. I'm about to play. Right. And it can work in certain settings, and it can, the funniest thing.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. But, the only people that are, this is like probably the most important thing I'll ever say when you're learning how to DJ or when you start DJing, you're not ever really going to be a good DJ until you play in front of people, and you play in front of people a shit ton.
True.
Yes.
Because you have to have those experiences where you fall flat. You have to have those experiences where you did it right. You have to, and you'll never know that if you're like the bedroom DJ, and then you go play, you finally prepare your thing, and here's the 15 songs that are in a row that blend perfectly, and you go play your thing. The only people that are ever going to come up to you after your set are going to be your friends saying you did a great job.
I love it, man. I fucking love it.
That's
just baptized by fire.
That's exactly what
it.
that's what happens. You sit there and your friends like, oh, you killed it. That was a great set. But they were there because they support you, right?
Yeah. Right.
Now, not necessarily people that are just sitting there going, wow, blown away. Now, you get a few of those, then you know you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to actually DJing, the difference between performing a DJ set and DJing are two completely separate things that are lost on the culture nowadays, especially with the way that people look at what DJing is. Like when people see people on TikTok or they see like these things that blow up on social media, they're getting 10-second clips of like a song getting played and people going crazy. Or they think that's what that's what they aspire to do or aspire to put. Like that's the content that's getting put out by DJs these days. Mm-hmm. So anybody that's going to get into it, that's the first thing they're going to recognize, the first thing they're going to see, the first thing they're going to want. But it's a very, very big difference when you have to cook a room and you find out that there's, I used to, when I first started, I used to play at 9 p.m. every single Friday in Denver. I got my first residency. And I played at 9 to 9:30. Then I played 10 to 10:30. Then I played 11:30 to 12. And those are my 3 sets for the night. Because back in the day, you just only had residents and no one could ever DJ. So I got to play my 3 sets. And the first set, they'd be like, we did this thing that was like free before 10 if you came in. And you get a stamp and you could come back later. So like, the broke motherfuckers would all come in at like 9:15.
Everyone crowds.
They might have a beer, but then like maybe there'd be like 15 people there. There'd be 15 people there at 9:30, and they were just going to stick around for the night. And so I'm playing to a 500 cap room with 15 people there. And so the games that I ended up having to play with in my head was I was going to play the best set I possibly could, but I would do whatever I could to just get a couple people loose enough to dance.
Right.
And then I played this game in my head where if I got like 4 people dancing out of 15 people, I'm fucking slaying.
You're slaying.
Right.
The crowd's going.
I know exactly what records to kind of go in that vein, and then the rest of the set would dedicate to the rest of those people until it was on to the next set and on to the next set and on to the next set.
Yeah.
And so that kind of taught me, ultimately some of my biggest failures was when I was in big crowds, and I've failed on those shows. I've played festivals where I didn't play the right set. I've had things where, but 90% of my failures were literally my ego, where I was shoving stuff down people's throats, thinking that that's what they wanted, as opposed to being on the other side of that and being like, what can I do to make these people's nights better? And the second that, it took me a couple years to understand that. But once I did, then it was like, that's the first thing I preach to a lot of these people that are just starting out or just beginning. Like you're stuck to a playlist. Like you might as well just be a Spotify playlist at that point that beat matches itself. I mean, AI is not that far away, right?
Oh, right. It's going to be doing it.
You have to be able to read.
We've talked about that.
As Cree is saying right now, he's like, we were just talking about this.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. Yeah.
It's really, 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 really
Let's
important.
go, Cree.
And that's like part of the biggest difference, I think, from a lot of the DJs that are kind of like coming up right now, is they don't understand that. They think if they're going to DJ in front of people, they need to pre-plan everything. And at that point, you might as well just have a mix CD.
I have a couple thoughts on all this. So I like the pre-planning a DJ set, specifically if you're a newcomer to DJing, as a way to understand how to DJ. Like give yourself some space and try and learn what it feels like to do 5 in a row that nail it every single time. That's fun. And then I'm a dork.
I'm just playing.
I am a dork.
I'm just joking.
No, that's true. I enjoy that as like just a method to get better. I come from band world, so I have like rehearsing a weird outlook on a lot of these things, and rehearsing is very it's very that way, and that goes to my other point is like I think there's a couple different versions of the way you can go about this, which is like you can be a DJ and that's what your thing is, you want to be a DJ, or you could be a
performer.
It's like a band. It would be like a band, like a hard ticket kind of like item kind of thing.
Yeah,
and you can play as a band would. Like if Gorillaz goes and plays a set, they're not playing to the crowd. You're right. They might also.
Right. They might also
have some like variability built into their set. but it's pretty planned out.
Right.
You know,
100%.
so like you can do both.
No.
They're very different things.
Very different things.
Yeah, exactly.
But no local DJ can do both.
That's true.
Oh.
No local
that's
DJ
fair.
can do both. You're not
Yeah.
coming around with production and lights and a show.
You're not at a
playing on the
status where
same
people are
exact
going to see you.
situation
Oh,
with
yeah.
the same
Oh,
exact
yeah.
decks that everybody
Yes.
else is.
Yeah, if you're DJing in a club,
Right.
Yeah, it's a
On a
soft
random
ticket.
night.
Nothing changes.
soft ticket night, your job is to be the DJ, then yeah, you're being the DJ.
The other side of that
Do
is,
that.
The other side of that is though, and this is where I would raise that question where it's very well, obviously we know it's very different, but this is where the pitfall there is when you go to see the Gorillaz, you're expecting to see the songs that you play. Now
Yeah.
go to a Gorillaz show, right? Next time you go to a Gorillaz show and watch them play the new album, right?
Right,
It's not out
exactly.
yet. It's pre-planned, perfectly timed, worst show of all time. Every single fan leaves there pissed, right? So the
I don't know.
Oh
I don't know
man,
about
no!
that.
I would bet you on anything. I
I mean, I like the artist that
People-
goes "fuck you" though.
Well, there's
I like that guy.
Yeah, you like that. I would go to argue that you are in the vast minority.
Yeah,
I
I,
think-
can agree
agree.
with that.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I think
Yeah.
that when people
I'm
go see
happy
an
to
artist
be that
play,
person.
they want to go. They want to go see the music that they
Yeah,
know
sure.
and
Yeah.
they love.
Yeah.
And so when enough of the fan base, enough of the artists that are there for you, right,
Mm-hmm.
know your music and want to sing along, that's very different. That's a very much like a hard
Yeah.
ticket situation. But if you're a DJ, right, it should be the inverse. You should be playing to the crowd and for the crowd.
Yes.
It needs to be a very mutual exchange.
Now, quick caveat with that. Could you do that if you had enough tracks of your own that nobody's heard before?
Yeah, but the thing is, it really, you have to train. It all depends on what the crowd's expecting.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. It's expectation
if the
specific.
crowd is expecting to hear your big hit records, and
Right,
I mean,
but-
there's a reason Shiba-san still plays okay to this day.
Right.
People want that moment. They paid the money. They love the record. They can't wait for the moment that he plays it. And it's like, the same way like Chris Lake has to play, Fisher has to play Losing It.
Right, but as a
Fisher's
new-
probably so tired of playing Losing It at this point.
Right.
He's sick of it, but it doesn't matter because that's what the crowd is there for.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your point, like, could you play a bunch of new records that nobody knows? Yeah, if they're expecting you as your tastemaker side of things to be a tastemaker, which is why somebody like
Right.
Fortet, if you go see
Yeah.
Fortet, you don't want to see him play the record.
Right. You want
Right.
to see what
Right.
he's
You
got
wanna
up his
see-
sleeve.
Exactly. Ben
Right, but
UFO.
how do you become that person? You have to always do that.
No,
Right.
you have to be known for that.
Right, exactly.
Right. You start that
You
way.
have to set
Right.
the stage.
You have
Like,
to
I'm
be
just
known
going to
that.
be doing
So
this
the
from the,
fans
beginning.
know what to
Yeah.
expect. So, like,
Yes.
for example, like if
Which sounds like a bit of a hard road based on what your opinion is on
Yeah.
this.
it's a very hard road, but the artists,
Long road.
the artists that do it,
Right.
do it and stick to their guns. You got, people fucking. You also have people in the middle too. You got people like Eris Drew, right? Octa. You have, you have these artists out there that
Goddamn right.
are not only just making like records
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
big, but also known as tastemakers. That's a very big difference between an artist that has 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Right,
and that's
yeah,
what
it's a
people
different thing,
consume. Like
for sure.
the way you know what crowd you're playing for is the way that you have to identify how people consume music, right?
Yeah.
That's number one. Once you identify how people consume music, where they're getting their music fed, right? Fed from.
Mm-hmm.
There is almost like two separate circuits in the world that are going on, two separate parties. There are the parties that
Yep.
are on the more commercial side, and then there are parties on the underground side where people are craving something that is not necessarily fed to them.
Right.
And those expectations are set, right? The second you walk in. If I go to Into the Woods in LA and I go see Jimmy Harris, I know exactly what I'm going to go get,
Right.
right? The same way, if you went to, you went to go see Larry Levon play,
Sure.
you know what you're going to get, right? And so those two circuits don't intermix at all whatsoever. And there is the commercial side of things where people are fed their music and they want to hear the hit and they want to go to the show because they know the records, right? And those artists can get away with playing other stuff. Maybe it's their new records, maybe it's the records that are up and coming, maybe it's
Right.
the records on their label that maybe people haven't heard and they're testing them out. But at the end of the day, they're still going to have to play the records those fans paid the money to go hear.
Sure.
And so it's two separate worlds that we're kind of identifying when it comes to electronic music, right? And when it goes hard ticket, when these artists go hard ticket, they no longer are DJing anymore.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they are no longer DJing anymore. When they go hard ticket and they're playing 15 of their own records.
Yeah. When I go see E-Prom at Mission Ballroom in July,
you know what you're getting.
I think we're almost done.
We are almost done. We're going to do lightning round here in just a moment.
Round. All right,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
there's two separate, that we're talking about the same thing and agreeing on the same thing, but it's three separate worlds technically. Once it goes hard ticket, there's that. There's the middle ground where these DJs are about to go hard ticket and they got hits and the fans want to see that. Then you've got the other underground side of the spectrum where people are literally craving stuff that is not a hit, and that is usually found in independent parties or warehouses or off the beaten path,
Under a
like
bridge.
independent promoters, essentially independent promoters.
Side note, before we start the lightning round, have you heard about those random parties they're throwing under bridges out here?
Oh, those are so sick looking.
I finally found the dude who's throwing them on TikTok, and they just bought a space here in town.
Oh, cool.
I'll have to show you the TikTok afterwards. I can't remember what
Permanent,
the
just
name
like
of it is.
abandoned bridge.
No, they found like an actual like enclosed space. It was an old
I thought they were just gonna
prepare
continue with
place
it.
or something, and they've converted it into a little venue. They don't just do electronic. They had like a couple rappers there a week ago or something.
Sick. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, there's like some
Branching
shit happening, which is sick. Fucking
Those sound fun.
Denver, let's go.
The bridge ones sound like
Fucking
the
love it.
acoustics would be a little strange.
Yeah, but you're not
Maybe
there
they
for the
figure something
acoustics.
out?
You're there for just the
and the meth.
yeah, and the meth.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The fuck.
And by meth we mean cocaine.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that stuff going on right now.
Cocaine?
It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. I'm like, when I started going to shows, Vibe Squad era, like 2008, 2009 and shit, like, it was just so venue based.
Shout out Vibe Squad, he's the best.
Dude, he is the fuck. Come on the pod, Vibe Squad. I would be honored. He's an absolute legend.
Legend.
Absolute legend.
Oh, yeah.
But like, it was a totally different space. Also, I was in the bass universe, so I wasn't like
bass Caleb
But
days.
like, were there house shows back then? Like
No.
it didn't exist like it does now. Like, it's a totally different
No,
landscape.
If I moved here and the house scene was the way it is right now, I would have never thrown a party in my life.
Right.
I would have just gone to the parties I want to go see, enjoyed my time.
And DJ'd.
No, I would have kept my day
nothing.
job.
Oh.
Like I
Well,
didn't-
God bless that didn't happen.
Yeah, God bless
No,
it.
I literally would have never, ever thrown a party. I would have just gone to the shows that
Just
I wanted
gone
to
to the
see
parties.
and had the options to see all these artists all the time. That's all I would have done.
Options, no pun intended.
Speaking of options, option 400.
Oh.
All right, lightning round. The way this works is I'm going to ask a question. It is arbitrary as fuck. You don't have to answer honestly. You can just be like, "This is
If it's
this is my
favorite,
answer."
it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be the favorite.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
All right,
We can keep it
easy.
short and sweet. We don't have to go super in depth. Or if you have thoughts on it, fucking send it.
It is a lightning round. It's meant to be quick.
It is meant
And
to be
also, everyone watching us live, feel free to participate.
Yep.
Throw your ideas in chat.
Do it in chat.
quick. I'm assuming this is in regards to listening to music. We'll just say that. Do you prefer a song that has a super long snare or a super short snare?
Long snare, short snare.
Tight, or do you like it kind of reverby and open and big?
Nah. These days all dry. Like I like.
Let's go. Love
Think
to
you know what
hear
our
it.
answers are from that
Yeah.
one?
Dry,
Short
baby.
snare.
Dry,
I'll go
all
short.
day. Yep.
Lost in Space also says tight.
Tight, like a toy
Oh,
gun.
I thought he said lost in space, like he wants a snare. Just fucking.
Listen,
A Rizzle.
I would like my snare to be
tighter-
lost
the-
in
The
space.
tighter the better.
Yeah,
I
the tighter
get
the
you.
better. There's a lot more room in the groove. if it's gonna be
Exactly.
tight.
Exactly. You
Dude,
get the
yep.
juice running.
Exactly.
All right. Same kind of note. Long songs or short songs?
Oh, long songs all day long.
Oh,
Yes.
I like that
Thank
answer.
you for fucking saying that, dude.
Listening, I'll say long. Making, I like making short songs. At least right now. I started making 8-minute long ballads. So right now I'm really
Yeah.
stoked on a 2.5
Same.
minute banger.
I love
You know?
making the long songs, but I feel like this pressure to make short songs because
No, it's just the algorithm.
Yeah, don't fucking
dorks.
feel pressure. Who cares?
I know. And I try not to give into it, but it's always in the back of my mind where I hit like
Right.
literally 3.5 minutes I think is long now, which I don't think is that long.
No, it's
Like
not
you
long at
can't
all.
even like say that much.
Nah,
like,
I'm
like
not-
you can, but you can't. I don't know.
I'm a sucker for the journey. I like
The journey,
I
dude.
like songs in
Yeah.
general, but
Yeah, agreed.
longer the better for
Fucking
me.
thank you,
Like-
Brennan.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think I'm a middle. I'm like a mid
Nice.
as A Rizzle says over here.
I will say,
Yeah.
I would just say,
Mid.
if I'm making like a house track and I'm making it as a club edit, to mix and shit, the meat of the song is maybe 3 minutes, but there's like an extra like 45 seconds on the front and the back end of like drums coming in or whatever kind of being tailored
sure.
in.
You
So
need the extra
it
percussion.
ends up being 5 minutes.
You need the extra percussion to keep something interesting in the mix while it's going.
Right, exactly. Festivals or intimate small venues?
I prefer small. I prefer small.
Interesting. Both of you.
I prefer small. Yeah.
100%.
I enjoy the festivals and I enjoy the big shows, and there's something about being in front of like 10,000 people. It's a lot of fun. But in the end of the day, like, my favorite shows are where I'm surrounded by people that know me or know why I'm there or know like that are there for me, as opposed to normally I'm not big enough to play in front of 10,000 people that are 10,000 fans, right? So I think that could be very different. Like, if I've got a massive fan base and I'm playing in front of 10,000 fans, I might change my mind.
Yeah.
Right. But for me personally, I always prefer intimate shows.
Fair.
Interesting.
Beautiful.
It's cool to hear. Coming from someone who's never played either, I love the idea of festivals, but yeah, we'll see when it happens.
Yeah, I have a very similar question that we'll just jump to next.
What did you say?
I said small.
Okay.
Without festivals involved,
That's what I'm saying.
just like 100 cap room or a 500 cap room.
500.
500.
Okay.
I like that. I like that answer.
Does sound nice.
A little bit more energy.
No, it's
or-
just like it's a different vibe. Usually,
Right, it's like a hall versus a club.
100 cap rooms are fun because they are small and they will never carry production. It will be something where it's just about the music,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's really a good vibe.
Right.
But
Sound
there
will
is-
be dog shit.
But
yeah, well,
500, you get another level. You get to introduce a little more.
Nah, you
You get lights. You get
yeah, but there's just 500 people in it.
right.
When there's 500 people in it,
Yeah,
that's like a great size for me
That's a
personally.
move.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
It's like that energy multiplies it by 5, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it.
I have no opinion at all,
Oh, okay.
really, but I like the idea of small.
Yeah.
So I'll go with 100.
I think I'd
Lost
rather
in
go
Space
500.
says Red Rocks. That's a fair answer.
Rocks.
All right.
Red
next-
Rocks and then small
What is that,
venues. Actually, what he
10,000?
said. I'm gonna go 500 on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Next one. Would you rather see a show where there's only lights or only lasers?
Oh, no LEDs?
Lasers.
No LED screen?
Lasers 100%
No, this
all
is
day.
no. Screens are thrown in the trash can. You get lasers or lights?
Lights or lasers? Lasers.
I'm lights like all day.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like you look at any of the big, like some of the awesomest parties ever, it's not lasers.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's all
You
about
could
the
do
lighting.
lasers like lights though.
You could. I just, for me, I mean,
Okay.
like, lighting is everything, and if you're at the right venue,
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's-
you can have static lights the whole time if they're just like blue and just like vibey the whole time. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
lasers are usually too dramatic. I
Ooh.
prefer lighting.
Okay. I'm
I say neither LED screen.
lame.
Fuck your question.
I go to the black box only. Lost in Space says butt lasers plus light over LED
Butt
for
lasers.
dancing at least. I agree with
I
that.
like butt lasers.
Everyone loves butt lasers,
That's
dude.
fun.
I'll go with lasers solely for the fact of I just want a laser right now for myself. All right, this is one that Will Clark says on his podcast all the time, and I'm gonna steal it because it's killer.
Oh, okay.
He's probably already asked me it. Go ahead.
I know. I think
Let's go.
actually he did maybe.
I listened to that podcast.
1 million followers or 100,000 fans who actually show up to your show.
No, come on now. That's not even a question.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
even a question at all.
Yeah.
100,000 all day.
I was gonna say 1 million.
1
followers.
minute. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, sure you were.
Just saying.
Sure you were. All those
100K.
Russian bots, dude. Dreamcatchers and Insects says Funky Baby 62. 62?
Whoa,
You could have said
Funky Baby showing
69.
up.
That's when he was born.
All right.
Funky
leg?
baby.
All right. Fair enough. Well, before we end, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs?
Oh man.
If you want.
I'm also kidding.
Okay.
It'll all be posted in the description. It doesn't really matter at all.
You'll find them. People know how to internet these days.
Right. But
It's good.
Thanks for coming on, man. It was
Oh,
a
my
fucking
man.
pleasure to have you.
Dude, yeah, this
Fucking
is a
legend.
lot of fun.
I hope I didn't talk about enough
No.
production shit.
No.
Sorry.
Dude, no, everything was great. Yeah, like we said, it's all just free
This is
form,
amazing.
whatever comes
Yeah,
up.
This is amazing. It went.
This was-
it went crazy.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're good.
Went as good as it needs to go.
Well, we had all the greatest sound effects, so I'll give you that.
Damn fucking right. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and, of course, hit sub and follow and
Always400.com.
send me
We need to
$400.
Yeah, we need to get those followers up. Let's go.
Get those followers up.
Peace out, guys.